Ladies and gentlemen, to be a fly on the wall in the preseason meeting between Goey and the coaches, it's time to talk all things black and white. Ladies and gents, this video is proudly sponsored by TSL and Neon, Melbourne's trusted signage specialist for commercial, LED and neon signage. For more information, the website link is in the description. That's tslsigns.com. They're family owned, family operated and service all of Victoria. Guys, today I want to talk about the one and only Jordan Goey. Probably the most, is he the most talked about pie in the last 10 years? I'd say you'd be hard pressed to find another player that's been spoken about in both positive lights and negative lights. He's had the spotlight on him for the most part of his career, and he just continues to have this attraction, this allure by mainstream media to always be in the face of it, and some due to his own doings, but that's just the way it goes, I suppose. But we want to talk about if there's a conversation that has been had, and all these players going into preseason will have expectations and discussions about what the club want, what the player wants in 2026 from both sides. So with JDG, we'll start with the off-season noise, tying into what we sort of talked about just before. It was another off-season where somehow JDG's name was thrown into the spotlight, considering throwing up his name for trade and getting some sort of draft capital coming back the other way. So there was that, and that was hit on the head pretty quickly. But I mean, like, you look at some of the ways that it was brought into the face of everything, and the John Ralph tweet about St Kilda chasing him, which hasn't happened since 2022. So that was interesting and desperate in maybe a period of time, in a trade period where there wasn't a lot to talk about. You put someone, you basically, what you do is, to get a headline these days, is put someone in a black and white jumper, and if their name's Jordan Goey or finish, or their surname starts with D and rhymes with ACOS, then you put them in the headline, and that will do numbers for good and bad reasons. But at the end of the day, we know mainstream media, the cycle repeats, and they just want clicks. So whatever it is and whatever it means, and maybe it was intentional by John Ralph. Maybe that's like, he knows that people are going to kick up a fuss that this was an intentional way, but so be it. Now, he's backed in. From the outside looking in, we can agree that Jordan Goey has been backed in by the club for another year, and there's full faith that he can return to his full power and still has that final prowess in the back end of the season, of course. He comes in. The question, or what I would want, and I think we've seen that already, and whether it's a dual agreement or one party's led this more than the other, but you would have thought if Jordan Goey is healthy in the off-season, you want to see him day one of preseason and get ahead. He's had 2 preseasons that have been injury-riddled, and he's not getting any older. He'd be... So 2015, 2014 he got drafted. So he would have been 28. He's 30 this year, or next season, going into next season. So you're not getting any younger. So where you've had a couple of seasons that have been disrupted, it only makes sense for you to be at training as early as possible. If you are not injured, go for it. Get yourself right and give yourself the best runway into 2026, and give yourself every chance to be the guy that you were, particularly in 2023, of course. Now, we will talk about the role that he may play in this next season. I think there's many ways to go about it, so that will be a close watch as we get closer to the start of the season. But I still think it's a matter of, is there a conversation of, Geordie, where do you see yourself in 2026? Do you see yourself playing more midfield or playing more forward? Do we want to go the Dangerfield route where you're playing forward for the most part of the season, and then in the finals, if we get there, we unleash you? So it's contingent on where we are on positionally on a ladder as well. We have to factor that in. We know he can accumulate the ball. He's a great inside-out player. He can score from the midfield, but he can also score. He got kicked 50-odd goals in 2018. He knows how to hit the scoreboard in the forward line. So what does Geordie want? What does the club think is best when you also add in the players around him who are young and budding and upcoming, and around his positional role, which we'll talk about in one moment. Maybe we'll move into that right away, but curious to hear what you guys think with Jordan De Goey's role. If he's fully healthy, fully fit, where do you see him playing next year? Now we can see the intent with our recruitment strategy and what we're doing. We bring in Swadling, Angus Anderson, Prindable, and I'm talking about midfielders. We got Bo, we got Ned Long, we got Nick, of course, we got Di Mattia, we got Ed Allen, all under the age of 24. So JDG has a chance, along with the likes of Sidey and Pendles, Nick himself, have a chance to impart some wisdom in what very well could be the twilight of Geordie's career. So I think every single one of those players can obviously take a leaf out of Geordie's book. While they may not be the Geordie De Goey prototype, they're going to have certain characteristics or traits that Geordie has. And can Geordie enable them to take the next step? Because these players, we're looking at this bundle of players, and these are the ones that need a hit. Ed Allen, Di Mattia, Angus Anderson comes in as a mature age through the national draft, goes down the same path as Bo, both from the sample. So there's players in that crop right now that should think they're a chance to play 15, 20 games next season. Why not? And I think that's going to be a massive box in the checklist that we want ticked. Can some of these, at least two of these players, take the next step that can play 20 games in the midfield consistently? And that includes, our Bo McCreary, depending on how he gets on with his injury. The last piece I want to add to this conversation is Geordie is contracted until the end of 2027. At the end of 2027, he would have served the club for 12 years, right? Therefore, he would be an unrestricted free agent. So you could potentially lose him for nothing at the end of 2027. So I say we revise or review where we're at with Geordie and where the Pies are at the end of this season. He's a pre-agent, meaning he's a year out of contract at the end of 2026. That's when you go, okay, do we use him as trade bait? How much of a trade bait he will be dependent on how his season goes as well, of course, that and his health. It all just depends. Are we going through a rebuild? Are we still right there? Do we want to cash out on Geordie while we still got some trade value? That's something that the noise will be the loudest at the end of this season, 100 million%, because of the fact that he's a pre-agent. It's going to be all year long as well, by the way. It hasn't started yet, but there'll be pre-agent discussions about Geordie De Goey in 2026. If like I said, there hasn't been yet, but it will happen at some point. But guys, let me know who you want next, and also if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. Furthermore, if you're really enjoying the content and want to support us monetarily, then there is a membership option for $5 a month. If you make it this far into the video, presume you're a diehard. If you want to support me by another means, and that's another way. So join for $5 a month, and that goes a long way. Anyways, ladies and gents, I appreciate you all, and as always, go Pies.